Is the audio okay?
The audio sounds great.
Okay, good deal.
We've got a few participants ready to roll. So I'm going to just dive in. Thanks, everybody, for joining us for the third part of our three-part series focusing on chronic pain, anxiety, and today Dr. Dorninger will be discussing sleep. As a quick reminder, in the chat, we do also have a Black Friday sale going on right now. So if you haven't gotten the emails or the direct mail for your next order in November, we do have a 30% off coupon with promo code Friday. So hope you guys are all getting our communication outside of this. Really appreciate you joining us. And with that, I'll turn it over to Dr. Eric Dorninger.
Awesome. And Greg, if you don't mind letting me screen share, I can pull those slides up. That's beautiful. Thank you. All right. So hopefully everyone got a good night's sleep last night, so they can learn about CBD and sleep. So today's probably the most exciting talk for me in regards to our series because things are getting so obvious with sleep, and things are getting so obvious with pain. And CBD is a novel anti-inflammatory and mood uplifting productivity molecule, but it's been a little complicated to work with sleep and understand what is this molecule of sleep. You guys know me. I'm Dr. Eric Dorninger, naturopathic doctor and licensed acupuncturist from Bastyr. I went to CU Boulder for pre-med and my BA in kinesiology, which is now called integrated physiology. I absolutely love biochemistry, physiology. I love people, and I love helping patients with chronic illness restore a reasonable quality of life. And I took my job at Blue Sky because I didn't know anything about cannabidiol, full spectrum hemp, THC in regards to healthcare and applications. Hearing all kinds of miracle stories from certain patients, other patients who literally hallucinated while brushing their horse off of a full spectrum product, people who enhanced their bipolar and anxiety off of full spectrum, and everything in between. So I decided to take an offer at Blue Sky CBD because they were a third-party tested, pure cannabidiol and pure isolate product line with zero THC and an absolute screaming price per milligram. And I dove in. And these talks are leftovers from 90 hours of combing the peer-reviewed literature in regards to what is cannabidiol, what is this miracle molecule about. And one of the things, there's one mistake if you do CBD 101 Dorninger on YouTube. I give a whole talk on the deep dive on the studies that I came across in over my 90-hour search. And that was the talk on sleep. There was it wasn't clear yet if CBD was sleep harmful, sleep helpful, or sleep neutral. And later research has shown it's sleep neutral and or sleep helpful. THC, on the other hand, like a glass of wine, helps you fall asleep, but then ruins sleep architecture. So another way to say that, it helps you fall asleep, but doesn't help you stay asleep. So if you go to my practitioner's overview of cannabidiol, just ignore that one sleep slide. It is outdated. Everything else is very up to speed. And all of the big studies are on pure cannabidiol, CBD isolate. So Ethan Rousseau said in one paper in an abstract, you may need an entourage effect. None of the peer-reviewed studies are on full spectrum hemp. They're all on cannabidiol. There's some that are on CBD, THC, and actual cannabis or actual marijuana, but in regards to the hemp, they're all on cannabidiol. We also do some fun topics on the Vitality Hour. That's my podcast on YouTube. And that is predominantly non-CBD stuff. So we want to create healthier communities. We like to sponsor our local doctors trying to do a better job to heal the healthcare system from what you have to why you have it. And a naturopath is trained to do that. They don't always do it, but their number one objective should be to identify and treat underlying causes. We love CBD's benefits on things like healing endocannabinoid deficiency and getting an anti-inflammatory body back out of an inflammatory body. We like guaranteed potency and purity. So every batch of Blue Sky has a lot number on it where you can get the third party certificate of, of verification, 0 THC, and then third-party tested with readily available COA, certificate of analysis. So how does it work? A lot of you guys have heard me speak before. Keep this short and sweet. CBD interacts with the body's endogenous cannabinoid receptors. We have receptors for CB1 and CB2, and we make self-made cannabinoids. We make them from fats like fish oil, fats like olive oil, fats like palm oil. And what CBD does is it works with our own endogenous cannabinoid system to modulate inflammation and balance the neuroendocrine immune. Neuroendocrine immune is the triangle relationship between the brain and central nervous system, the hormone system, any gland that puts out hormones, ovaries, testes, adrenals, thyroid, and the immune system. And when I see a chronically ill patient or someone with migraines or someone with eczema or someone with Crohn's disease, it is always that immune system branch of that triangle that throws the first French fry and gets the body into a physiological food fight. That is one of the many reasons cannabidiol is so effective for so many symptoms all over the body, is it modulates that instigator, a corrupted, dysfunctional, disorganized immune system. Endogenous means self-made. They're fat-derived signaling molecules involved in reward, appetite, metabolism, mood memory, circadian rhythms, and neuroprotection. CBDs have 4 major physiological targets. They bind receptors like a lock and key hormone, ion channels, that is a lot to do with energy production, enzymes and transporters. If the endocannabinoid tone is inadequate, if your own endogenous systems have been used up from stress or overwhelmed or a poor night's sleep or overtraining or a gazillion other ways we burn the candle at both ends in America, you will start having digestive disturbances, mood dysregulation, and sleep disruptions. CBD activates the 5-HT1 receptor for increased serotonin, the dopamine 2 receptor for increased dopamine, and boosts GABA A for feeling cool, calm, and collected. So this is a miracle molecule. It is a true miracle molecule. And I was scared of it. And I grew up with Nancy Reagan just say no. And we're now seeing things with psilocybin for irretractable depression and PTSD, and CBD for all kinds of inflammatory disorders, where maybe we should appreciate that sentiment, but switch it to just teach me the biochemistry and teach our doctors how to help patients with their chronic illness, and know how to apply these with the proper idea, the proper dosage, and so on and so forth. So CBD is a novel anti-inflammatory, neuroprotector, and productivity molecule. So serotonin, what is 5-HT1? It's the most ubiquitous serotonin receptor in the central nervous system, and it's a target for several anti-anxiety and antidepressant medications. It's also a target for a lot of migraine meds. So you guys have heard of drugs like Immutrex or Prozac, Lexapro, Zoloft. All those are trying to get that serotonin to bind better. 5-HT1 activates and enhances enthusiasm via improved mental acuity, decreased aggression, increased social gregariousness, decreased impulsivity, inhibition of drug-seeking behavior, and supports libido and arousal. I started 150 milligrams of Blue Sky Original morning and mid-afternoon to get through the most heroic workload I've ever had since the pandemic. I was already busy. Then I was going home reading like 2 to 5 medical papers a night, still do that, but 40 to 60 hour work weeks turned into 60 to 80 hour work weeks. And I avoided burnout. I avoided emotional exhaustion, depression, anxiety from 300 milligrams of Blue Sky Original a day. That's a very stiff dose, and that's what I needed to do my job. But one of the most interesting things personally for me is I didn't seek alcohol. Historically in the past, if life was that intense, even in the best of ways, hey, I'm getting to serve my community. I've studied my whole life to understand it's not COVID, but the overzealous, nonsensical inflammatory responses to the virus that burn down the lungs and drive pulmonary fibrosis and clot blood and drive pulmonary embolisms and neuroinflame the brain and leave you as a depressed long hauler. I've went my whole life to help with that, right? But I would usually come home and, once, twice a week and say, I'm going to pour a stiff shot of tequila and make this all go away. I'm too overwhelmed. I have no feelings for that need to decompress with alcohols on that dosage of the Blue Sky Original. So really incredible for helping modulate stress and tolerate stress. And 5-HT1 agonists are shown in literature to dampen nausea. This may be responsible for the anti-nausea effect seen with CBD users. We know that Dr. Gerber wrote a great book way back in the day called The Second Brain. He's a medical doctor, said, hey, the biggest bundle of nerves is in our skull, is in our cranium, our brain. Second biggest bundle of nerves is the enteric nervous system, the gut nervous system. The gut feeling is real. You bit off more than you can chew. You can't swallow that. I got a gut feeling. Those are actually neurons working in your gut. They do motility. Serotonin for enthusiasm in the brain does motility in the guts. If you don't keep your guts moving, you're going to have dysbiosis and swamp gut, right? Things like SIBO and things like fat and protein malabsorption. And on the best day, things like celiac Crohn's, ulcerative colitis on the worst day. So 5-HT1 really helps gut function. We use CBD a lot to calm gut symptoms. Dopamine, ambition and drive, feelings of self-worth, hopefulness, decisiveness, the ability to finish tasks, courage, and part of our libido. Cannabidiol is a partial agonist of the dopamine 2 receptors. Recent research suggests cannabidiol is the first apparent exception to the general rule that antipsychotics either block or interfere with dopamine at brain dopamine 2 receptors. So this is so cool. When someone thinks she's a lizard queen or he thinks he's a lizard king, he's running down Pearl Street naked with psychotic break, we're going to put him on an antipsychotic. And that works by dampening glutamate, an excitotoxic molecule in the brain, but it also smashes their dopamine. And that's why, okay, they're not going to torch a relationship or maybe be able to hold their job on an antipsychotic, but they're going to feel very flat. They're going to have no personality. They went from mania to flatness. What CBD did in a clinical trial on 80 plus schizophrenics in Germany is they randomized them to take a traditional antipsychotic or 400 to 800 milligrams CBD. The CBD takers stabilized the schizophrenia just as well as the antipsychotic takers, with less side effects. And so these people felt cool, calm, and collected, but not sedated. They also didn't have as many movement disorders that comes as a side effect of antipsychotics. And I want to be super clear, like there's a lot of people in the holistic world who are, drugs are bad. You have trashy drugs that should be off the market. You have rob Peter to pay Paul drugs that help over here but hurt over here. And then you have miracle drugs. I put those antipsychotics in the middle. They're necessary sometimes, but unfortunately they can flatten somebody. You know, we're just going to put Sally in the corner and make sure she doesn't get herself in trouble, right? It's not what happens with CBD. People can maintain some affect, some personality, some presence, but not have psychotic break. Pretty cool stuff. Other papers are suggestive of CBD's ability to deplete glutamate. Too much glutamate in your brain is anxiety, obsessive compulsive, feelings of attention deficit, and on a worst day, bipolar and schizophrenia. How do you think that bodes for a good night's sleep? No bueno. You don't want to feel anxious. You don't want to feel obsessive. You don't want to be ruminating. You want to go, good productive day. Now off to bed. Let's get a good night's sleep. Do it all over again tomorrow. So adenosine modulates overstimulation of the nervous system. And that's the big punchline here. When you feel kind of jittery on caffeine, caffeine is inhibiting the adenosine 1 and 2 receptors. CBD stimulates the adenosine 1 receptor, preventing irregular heart rhythm in a rodent model of heart attack. And CBD also stimulates the adenosine 2 receptor, enhancing anti-inflammatory potential, which is neuroprotective in the mouse model. So stimulation of the adenosine results in a calming effect and does not account for CBD's uplifting effects, but may provide a remedy for the caffeine jitter. So I'm not supposed to drink too much espresso. If I have an espresso and a dropper or two of the CBD original, I enjoy the energy without the ooh of caffeine. So very important for sleep. And remember, if you're doing caffeine, try and be done around noon, 2 o'clock the latest, or it will interfere with your sleep. So don't be like, Blue Sky sleep gels didn't work. And we see that you're doing 2 quad shot lattes a day, right? You really have to deal with your caffeine addiction. And the way to do that is make sure you're oxygenated, don't have apnea, make sure your blood sugar steady, make sure you're having some moderate exercise, eating well, and slowly cut your caffeine in half about once every week until you have, 1 to 2 shots of espresso a day or 1 to 2 cups of coffee a day. You start getting more than that, and you're going to mess with your sleep. I learned how to practice medicine in Bastyr, which is in Seattle, and we learned pretty quickly. When you ask somebody how much caffeine you drink, and they say, oh, 1 or 2, you have to ask cups or pots. And them Seattle folks were doing 1 to 2 pots of coffee a day, right? That's like 4 to 16 cups. So you're not going to sleep well ever if that obstacle occurs in the way. Ion channels. These TRPs are called transient receptor proteins. And there's a kind of a famous one called the TRPV1. And CBD helps dampen the pain caused by these TRPV1s. So PPARs are anti-inflammatories. And this is a lot how fish oil works. The whole reason these are in a sleep talk is because so many people don't sleep well because of pain, right? So if you could bring down the neuropathic pain, things like shingles, or things like a peripheral neuropathy, or if you can bring down general pain, you're going to sleep better. So that's what these are in here for. So neurotransmitter reuptake inhibition, this just shows all the places in the brain that you set up a productive, uplifted, cool, calm, collected brain during the day that's low inflammatory and cool, calm, collected, ready to decompress and to sleep at night. Is CBD an endogenous cannabinoid? Nope. It's exogenous, but it supports your endocannabinoid tone. It's a novel neuroendocrine immune modulating and inflammatory. It's an endocannabinoid promoter. It's isolated from the hemp plant, but it avoids the concerns of taking in 100 phytocannabinoids at once and trying to think, where's that going to land with an MS patient? Where's that going to land with a rheumatoid patient? Where's that going to land with a Hashimoto's autoimmune thyroid patient? What I mean by that is, when we use herbs, like for example, echinacea, you can flare a rheumatoid arthritis patient from Th1 stimulation. So there's a lot of levers and pulleys in the immune system. EPA, DHA fish oil, vitamin D, vitamin K2, probiotics, short-chain fatty acids, glutathione, CBD are modulating. If your immune system is a seesaw out of balance this way, it brings it to the middle. If it's a seesaw out of balance this way, it brings it to the middle. What I'll tell you about CBD relative to those other miracle things that I love me some vitamin D and fish oil too. Nothing works better for uplifting the mood and dealing with pain in the natural medicine world on average than the CBD isolate. If the CBD is not working to bring down that pain to prepare for a good night's sleep, we bring out our max relief, which is the CBD with CBG. And then we combine the CBD with CBN for the final icing on the cake to bring you down into sleep. Wonderful, wonderful alternative to many over-the-counter and prescriptive anti-inflammatories. I did 10 years at medicine at Fraser Meadows Retirement Community. Let me tell you their favorite drug for sleeping. Advil PM, Tylenol PM. Why do I think CBD and the CBD-CBN combo works so well? Because it's an anti-inflammatory. And when you take cytokine storms off the brain, your circadian rhythms, things like melatonin release from the pineal gland, things like hypothalamus pituitary, adrenal axis, to wake up cortisol in the morning, start working better, and you can get back on farmer's hours. When I saw the Tylenol PM and the Advil PM at Fraser, I was always like, oh, I don't want to take this person off it because it's helping their sleep, but it's also destroying their kidneys, their livers, and their intestinal linings. Hardcore. Every day I'd look at labs and kidney functions off, liver functions off from years of non-steroidal anti-inflammatories. There's no free lunch with Advil or Tylenol. It's not if, but when you're going to injure your intestinal lining, your liver, or your kidneys. So, but what happened? They dampened inflammatory cytokines, so the brain could kick into a sleep cycle and a wake cycle. So that's what we're seeing without that. So CBD is not THC, although some full spectrum hemp products have THC and people can react to that. CBD is non-intoxicating, but it is psychoactive. I hate when people say cannabidiol is not psychoactive. I used it to not be depressed or anxious during a pandemic and not have emotional exhaustion and burnout. That's psychoactive. It's an uplifting productivity molecule. The endorphin presentation is most similar to what you get off a runner's high. CBD does not show the safety concerns of liver, kidney, and intestinal lining like NSAIDs. All right. Here's Kaylee. She's very impressed. And I'm wondering if I'm on the wrong slide deck. A lot of overlap with the anxiety and sleep ones here. We'll see how this goes. And then this is the anxiety on the frontline healthcare workers. They took these Brazilian frontline workers, and what they did is they gave them an exercise DVD and counseling, or an exercise DVD counseling and 300 milligrams of cannabidiol, not hemp, 300 milligrams of CBD. And what we saw was statistically significant decrease in anxiety, depression, emotional exhaustion, and burnout. So the one variable between the two groups was 300 milligrams CBD. All right. So how much should I take? We're going to take about 1 CBD CBN sleep for going to sleep. If that doesn't work, that's the sleep gel. You're going to take 2. I like to chew them up. If you take 2 and you're not getting improved quality quantity of sleep, you need to get your oxygen checked. We use the Looky Ring, LOOKEETECH, lookytech.com. If you're dropping out in your oxygen, you're waking because you're choking yourself out, you need to go talk to your primary or get a visit to the sleep clinic. We also sometimes will do the Freestyle Libre constant glucose monitor, make sure you're not dropping your glucose out in the middle of the night. That's another reason that we're not going to break through that. So making sure you're really dealing with those things. And then if you're having pain syndromes, we're doing 1 to 2 of the max relief gel, 1 to 2 times a day. If that works and you feel good off the sample, the tincture is much cheaper. We're doing 1 to 2 dropperfuls of that max relief gel 1 to 2 times a day. On days where you're not having so much pain, pull back on it. On days where you say, hey, I want to go on this awesome hike, but I'm nervous about my knee flaring, take 2 dropperfuls before you go on that hike. Take 2 dropperfuls afterwards. So a lot of our patients use the max relief like you would an Advil or Tylenol. Some take a low dose, like 1 dropperful 1 to 2 times a day more consistently to stay in front of things like rheumatoid arthritis or fibro, et cetera, et cetera. If you're having more mood issues, you're feeling more concerns with overwhelm and anxiety and obsessive compulsive and ruminating, and you're worried about your kids and will they come home from the keg party and all these things, then it's the Blue Sky Original. 1 to 2 original Sky Gels, 1 to 2 times a day. See how you feel with your mood. If that works, 1 to 2 dropperfuls of the original 1 to 2 times a day. We have a really fun quiz on the Blue Sky CBD.com website that you can take to say which product's best for you. And then I'll also tell you any painful body part. I get some neck stuff from jiu-jitsu. I'll rub the original or the max relief, literally open it up, rub it on, let it sit for 2 to 3 minutes. Let's imagine 2 to 3 minutes elapsed. And then I'll just give myself a little massage. Don't rub your eye or touch your privates until you wash your hand, because there's a little bit of wintergreen oil in there. And that'll really settle me in for a good night's sleep too. So if a localized pain phenomenon is happening to you, you can do that. I know one of our owners wipes a little bit of the original balm on his wife's spine, paints little angel wings on her shoulders, and rubs a little bit on the bottoms of her feet. And she goes out like a light. So those are just some ideas. If you're on traditional blood thinners, we don't want you taking CBD unless you're under the observation of a doc. There is a marker called INR that shows us how you're doing with blood clotting and blood thinness for things like warfarin, heparin, Coumadin. And I've used CBD with people on those medicines many times, but I watched that INR. I haven't seen that much change. However, there's one case study written up where someone's blood got a little too thin. If that's the story, stay in the same dose of CBD and pull back on your blood thinner. Xarelto, Pradaxa, Eliquis don't have that issue. They take a different clearance pathway as CBD. And then again, sourcing. When you're doing cannabidiol and CBD, CBN, you're just looking for pure CBD and pure CBN. You don't want the potential THC, because THC wrecks sleep architecture. And then let me get up the sleep slides. There's a lot of overlap there, but We want 2 studies from the sleep. Okay, go.
Eric, can you
Yeah,
hear me?
I can.
Yeah, I have found that 3 milligrams of melatonin and one of your CBNs, and I'm getting a really good night's sleep.
Love it. Yeah. And how old
Okay.
are you?
Huh?
How old are you?
68.
Yeah, it's great. Love it. So as we age, and particularly in 55 and older, our endogenous or self-made production of melatonin goes down a little bit.
Yeah.
And the dosage we use with 55 and older is 1 to 10 milligrams of melatonin. And melatonin helps trigger the release of your self-made growth hormones and gets you into your beauty sleep, which is where these growth hormones flood the body. But a lot of times, melatonin on its own is not anti-inflammatory
Right.
enough. Melatonin just triggers sleep cycles. So people can still have trouble with getting to the end of the day. And through work and exhaustion, a workout, and maybe you ate a donut, your inflammatory cytokines are up a little bit. That is awesome that you figured out your personal cat's meow recipe. I love hearing that. But I think what you're
Well,
probably getting is a little mixture there.
yeah. I've done a lot of reading about melatonin, and it's also possible to take too much of it, and then you get like a melatonin burnout where
Yeah.
you take a bunch of it, it doesn't do much good.
Yes.
You
Yeah.
get
There's a couple.
melatonin burnout.
Yeah.
And
And there's
but anyway, I have found that one of your 30 milligram CBNs plus 3 milligrams melatonin, and my lights are out.
yeah, it's great.
And it
Love hearing
works
that.
all night long too.
Love hearing that. Yeah. And you know, Greg, I'm a CBD original guy. We all project our own healthcare narcissism into the world. And for me, if I go somewhere, I go depression. I don't get very anxious. And the CBD original just keeps me there. I don't have much trouble sleeping because I'm so exhausted from this huge job I'm trying to accomplish for fixing healthcare. Some of our patients don't have trouble falling asleep. Others have trouble staying asleep. And I'm really glad you brought that up because the people who have trouble falling asleep, I say, hit that sleep gel about 30 minutes before desired bedtime. If you have trouble staying asleep, I say, hit the sleep gel right at bedtime. And as long as you have like another 3-4 hours to go, if you wake up at 3-4 in the morning and you're kind of bing, you can take another sleep gel and it'll help get you back into restorative sleep. I also say check your oxygen, check your blood sugar with your doc. If you're bing doing that all the time, and look at things like a glass of wine, right? A glass of wine helps us fall asleep, but then the blood sugar goes low, 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 3 in the morning, and our brain goes, I'm scared and anxious. My blood sugar is a 62, bing. And you wake up and you blame it on a swollen prostate or something. That's not really the story. It was the blood sugar drop. But you're accomplishing what we want is for you to stay in that deep restorative sleep. Love hearing it. Love hearing it. Never gets old. I think if we can
And
get
that 30-minute lead time is important also.
yes. Yeah, and I would say the same for melatonin, right? But
Yeah.
we did a lot of melatonin. I don't do cancer, but I did some rounds with cancer at Bastyr, and they do 10 to 20 milligrams of melatonin because it has such a potent anti-cancer effect, particularly with breast and prostate. And a lot of those patients would wake up hungover. So you would, if you could get to 20 milligrams without being hungover, we'd say go for it. But a lot of people would be so hungover at 10 milligrams already. And then it's like, you're trying to be productive. You got to go at radiation and chemo, and it just didn't work. So I appreciate both what you're saying about melatonin and reaching tolerance, right? All of a sudden it doesn't work because you got quote unquote greedy on it, right? And then the other one, which is the hangover potential. And then also taking it as a prelude. Yeah, that's really, really good to hear. I always daydream of like, if we could get our sleep gels into Congress and get all those men and women like a good night's sleep, maybe they'd work better together. Maybe we need to get Putin some sleep gels or something. But a good night's sleep just makes you a better communicator, more clear, more less pain. A lot of good stuff happens with a restorative night's sleep.
All right.
I was going to share this, these couple of quick slides here on why we think the sleep gels are working so well. And the big one I already answered, which is the end of a long day, you're inflamed as an American, right? Whether it's working manual labor and roofing all day, whether you got a micro tear in your shoulder from doing a jiu-jitsu class, whether you sprain your ankle on a run, or you're just running around like a crazy person, stressed, whether you have sitting disease from just working as a telemarketer all day or as a Google coder, you're inflamed. And those inflammatory cytokines don't let our endocrine system release these wonderful sleep hormones like GABA to set up cool, calm, and collected, and then melatonin to flood and set up these growth hormone cycles. So in 20 years of dealing with chronic illness, including insomnia, the underlying causes of inflammation are notorious for ruining the sleep party. This can include lack of oxygen, depleted endogenous or self-made cannabinoids, no longer being able to control the body's immune system or cytokine storms. CBD not only enhances your self-made cannabinoids, but also dampens the cytokine storms known to disrupt sleep architecture. So serotonin downstreams into melatonin. So what's really neat about what you just shared is serotonin in the morning. If I get up and drink a glass of water, maybe use the potty, and just do 1 to 2 minutes of jumping jacks in a window, letting sunlight hit my photoreceptors, that tells the pineal gland, cut off the melatonin production, wake up the serotonin, and use it as a productivity hormone to feel enthusiastic and productive. When I get to nighttime, I want that sundown. I want those blackout shades. If you ever go camping, there's a very specific green light that comes off the dark sky, and that will turn the serotonin into melatonin. So again, you need adequate serotonin in a bank account to then siphon or funnel off melatonin with darkness. So CBD reduces anxiety as well, which improves sleep, allowing for longer time spent in REM, fewer sleep disturbances, less latency, increases in sleep duration, and affects release of cortisol. So this is all out of a study quoted on the bottom here, the use of cannabinoids for sleep, a critical review on clinical trials. So they evaluated a whole bunch of clinical trials, and the CBD one also modulates cortisol. We know that in the morning, we want cortisol to spike, and in the evening, we want cortisol to drop out, and we want those hens to roost. That drop out of cortisol with darkness triggers the pineal gland to spike melatonin. Melatonin to spike in the evening and drop out in the morning. And that's called the circadian rhythm or farmer's hours. Get up with the sun, go to bed with the sun, get up with the sun, go to bed with the sun. Cortisol is swimming around and high from a day's worth of stress and meal skipping and so on and so forth. You're not going to have the melatonin party come out. So I really love that the cannabidiol also helps with sleep. The last statement here is where my YouTube talk, CBD 101, that slide where we're like, we're not sure about CBD yet. They actually did a follow-up study where they gave participants 300 milligrams of CBD, and at nighttime, right? The daytime dose that I take for an uplifting productivity molecule didn't mess with sleep architecture. THC did, right? And I'm not anti-marijuana. I just need my patients to know, hey, that's very seductive. That little toke is going to help you fall asleep, but it doesn't help you stay asleep. And that's really important for people to understand that. So they took this group of a sample size of 72 adults, And what they found is sleep scores improved within the first month in 48 patients, but fluctuated over time. And what we saw is that, again, a lot of the sleep help from CBD is probably from the anti-inflammatory and the anti-anxiety benefits from that. So look at the dosage on this. Guess how much CBD is in a sleep gel? 25 milligrams, right, of CBD, 25 milligrams of CBN. So we're trying to make an anti-inflammatory sleep supportive idea. Like we're trying to make Advil PM or Tylenol PM without the liver, kidney, and intestinal lining destruction. So if anxiety complaints predominated, the dosing was every morning and after breakfast. If sleep complaints predominated, dosing was every evening after dinner. A handful of the patients were given 50 or 75 milligrams a day. One patient with trauma history and schizoaffective disorder received a CBD dosage that was gradually increased to 175 milligrams. So again, the harder the trauma, the harder the mood disorder, bipolar schizophrenia, hardcore anxiety, obsessive compulsive, the higher dose you're going to need to cool that brain down and have a really good night's sleep. So this was the study where they gave 300 milligrams of or a placebo on the first night in a double-blind randomized cycle. And the second night, the same procedure was performed using the substance that had not been administered in the previous occasion. And again, we didn't see sleep architecture get messed with, but we did with full cannabis. All right. These we went through. And there's our lovely Carrie Horn showing you the Max Gel, which is our CBD CBG.
Hey, D, your the presentation isn't being shared right now.
Oh. Okay. One of those tech days. Can you guys see it now?
We sure can.
Okay, so let me just go back to and who was sharing their blue sky sleep experience?
Gerald was in mentioning the 3 milligrams of melatonin.
Yeah, I thought I recognized Gerald's voice. So really, what we were showing you is this review slide here, and again, get cortisol cranking in the morning, do a minute or two of jumping jacks or push-ups or jump rope or even just some sit and fit in front of a window, get some sunlight if you have a nice deck, get that going, wake up that cortisol, shut off that melatonin. When evening comes, don't be watching horror films or the X-Files getting your cortisol all roused or the Broncos losing. And keep that cortisol modulated so melatonin can spike. What we saw is, again, that CBD dampened, blunted these cortisol spikes, which allows melatonin to come out in the evening. And then I was just sharing here how we think that CBD and CBN are working as anti-inflammatories, anti-anxieties, and keeping cortisol modulated so that melatonin can pop. But like Gerald was sharing, you might need to add 1 milligram or 3 milligrams or 6 milligrams or 9 milligrams or 10 milligrams of melatonin. Pay attention for a hangover if you start getting too high on that, and look back and say, am I doing this? Is my partner saying I do? Well, then throw an overnight oximeter on you, look your ringer, go talk to your doc about getting evaluated for apnea. Do you wake up kind of in a sweat? Well, maybe you have low blood sugar. Your doctor can put a constant glucose monitor on you. But if you're getting the results Gerald's getting, then he's just dealing with inflammation and getting that melatonin and growth hormones to pop and getting that restorative sleep. And again, one final run here, but this was CBD did incredible for anxiety and also had some pretty substantial improvements in sleep. But the more intense the mood experience, higher rates of anxiety. This one patient with trauma and schizoaffective disorder needed 175 milligrams of CBD to calm down the brain, not sedate, put them in the cool, calm, collected space, not sedated space, to go, okay, let's go off and get a good night's sleep. And then again, here's the 300 milligrams of CBD as not disrupting sleep architecture. And again, I know Colorado loves their wine. We see some people flying from California and Napa, and you know, things like a little toke of weed, things like a glass of wine, they always help fall asleep, and they do enhance GABA in the brain, but then you always wake, and you're usually waking from the blood sugar problems they create, hypoglycemia, panics, and wakes up the brain, as does hypoxia or low oxygen. So CBD did not do that, but THC did. So for a lot of our marijuana smokers, we try and convert them over to CBD or the CBD CBN Sky Gels for falling asleep. We say, hey, if you need to go take a toke, go have a hike at 5 p.m. or something like that. And then you guys already know how we enjoy to start small but go bigger if you need to, because you're not getting clinical efficacy. Blue Sky and my clinic are all about improving quality of life for the public and the patient.
Thank you so much, Dr. Dorninger. We always appreciate the feedback. Thanks, Gerald, for all of your feedback as well. And we will open this up to any questions that the rest of you may have. And if not, then we'll just wrap. So thanks again for joining us. Any questions? Let me check the chat.
I also want to say, or any comments, and Gerald is one of a handful of customers who have really helped us hone in on what's working. And I'll just say what I often say: in 20 years of private practice, I've never seen anything in the natural world work as quickly as the cannabis isolates. But if I was going to categorize them, the original, that's for mood and avoiding things like the depression, anxiety, emotional burnout, exhaustion. The CBD CBG is really taking an anti-inflammatory product to the next level. So neuropathic pain, fibro, rheumatoid arthritis, post-op, you got a hip replaced, those kind of ideas. And then the CBD CBN, I know I speak for Greg Carpenter here. He just loves watching how that helps America with quality and quantity of sleep. And we're currently tracking a whole bunch of Blue Sky customers and their Whoop and Aura rings. And we are seeing on average about 1 to 1.5 hours of quality and quantity of sleep. And I'd love to at some point really put that to the data-driven test and be able to publish on that. But we're just so excited that people are waking up more refreshed with less pain and a more clear brain.
Well, thank you guys. Thanks everybody for joining. We'll always be here and available through our email address online with info@bluesky-cbd.com. If you have any additional questions, and keep in mind, we do have the Black Friday sale going with promo code Friday. Thanks for all of you for being such great partners with us, and we'll see you next time. Thanks, Dee. Have a great day.
Bye, gang.